From claims of healings and visions to the world's most inexplicable events, whether you're a believer or a skeptic, the truth is always worth the hunt.
EWTN Radio presents The Miracle Hunter with Michael O'Neill.
Welcome to the Miracle Hunter radio show on EWTN Radio. This is Michael O'Neill. I'm the Miracle Hunter. Well, it's great to be back. I was in Italy for a week, and what a week it was. It was in Milan and Turin and Florence and Rome. Absolutely amazing. Filming while I was there and experiencing the incredible sights of the Eternal City. But it's great to be back. And I'm so grateful to Father Edward Looney for stepping in last week. You may have tuned in, and you might have heard a voice that wasn't mine, but Father Edward Looney stepped in and did a wonderful job. So we're grateful to him for him taking over the reins for just 1 week. But I'm back, and I'm excited because we have a great show ahead for you today. We'll be talking about Cardinal Newman. You may have heard this news, of course, that he will be declared a doctor of the church. That's a big deal. And one of my favorite interview subjects is coming back to join us, and that's Melissa Villalobos. She was the miracle recipient that was approved by the Vatican, and that miracle was the very one that led to him being declared a saint. And this was I've done this interview before, but every time I talk with Melissa, it's a great, great story. So I'm excited to connect with her. And we'll also be talking today about one of my favorite future saints, and that's Blessed Michael McGivney. He's the founder of the Knights of Columbus. I'm a Knight of Columbus as well. And we'll be talking to Brian V. Caulfield, the vice postulator for that cause, about a brand new miracle that's being considered for that cause that may push Michael McGivney ahead to sainthood sometime soon. So I think it's a great episode today about the saints. And check out my series on EWTN, Explore with the Miracle Hunter. It airs every Saturday at 5 p.m. Central Time. And coming up on August 9th, we've got the episode on Assisi. The Italian city of Assisi gave rise to two of history's most celebrated saints. I follow the trail of St. Francis, the first person to bear the stigmata, the wounds of Christ, and St. Clare, his wonder-working follower. So check that one out, August 9th at 5 p.m. Central Time. And They Might Be Saints airs on August 12th. I look at the saintly life of Montse Grasses. She was a cheerful 17-year-old who faced cancer with extraordinary faith and joy, and she could become the first woman of Opus Dei to be declared a saint. Check that one out. They Might Be Saints, Montse Grasses, on August 12th. And later in the show, we're going to be looking at the Might Be Saint of the Day, Blessed Richard Beret, as today's subject. And for the 365 Days with Mary project, the White Lady from Messina in Italy in the year 1282. And the question of the week relates to that story of the incorrupt baby that was discovered. I reported this on the show a few weeks ago or months ago, and we'll be revisiting that one in just a little bit. And the miracle of the day, on August 9th, 1848, there was a 7-year-old boy who had a remarkable healing. We'll be talking about that miracle later in the show. Let's take a look at the miracle news. We do this every week where we talk about the miracles happening all around the world and those things that relate to miracles. And this is kind of interesting to me. I think that, of course, people who tuned into this show last year, for numerous episodes consecutively, we talked about Medjugorje, that apparition phenomena that's been claimed in Bosnia-Herzegovina from 1981 and was just given this nihil obstat, or nothing stands in the way, recognition by Rome last year. And so one of the questions, of course, was that with each successive pope, how will Medjugorje be viewed or treated? And we have the first sort of, not statement, but Pope Leo addressing Medjugorje for the first time ever. So he sent a message to young people gathered in Medjugorje. And so he encouraged the young pilgrims to walk together towards God and encouraged and strengthened each other by sharing their faith and encounters. Pope Leo, in his message, said no algorithm can ever replace a hug. And of course, he's referring to his combat against AI, or at least his statements related to the advances of technology. And so this was the 36th Youth Festival underway in Medjugorje this past week, and the Vatican has authorized pilgrimages to this Marian shrine in Bosnia in 2019. And the Pope's letter from Castel Gandolfo on July 9th was made public on August 4th. And he was referring to a motto of the festival when he said, let us go to the house of the Lord from the Psalms. He explained that this phrase speaks to our journey of a desire that draws us to God, to the place where he dwells, where we can truly be at home, because that is where his love awaits us. And so he quoted the spiritual master, St. Augustine, and he spoke of the image of pilgrims who form a single flame, each communicating with each other, the fire in which he burns. He had various other commentaries about this, and this, in so many ways, this helps to lead to the normalization of pilgrimages to Medjugorje. They're, of course, linked to the alleged apparitions that were purportedly witnessed by several visionaries since 1981. These pilgrimages have grown since the late 1990s after the Yugoslav War. And, of course, we've seen over the years the Vatican has had a great deal of hesitation and caution, but it gave formal authorization to the pilgrimages in 2019 and recognized the need for pastoral guidance as well. So, as I mentioned, the dicastery for the cause of the doctrine of the faith issued a nihil obstat, which was a positive opinion on the experiences of the pilgrims in Medjugorje. But one key point, it never commented on the authenticity of the apparitions, and the Vatican still urges caution regarding the messages conveyed by the visionary. So, that all being said, the Pope sent a message to the pilgrims, encouraging them and in their walk of faith. So it's kind of a big deal that Pope Leo is following in Pope Francis and encouraging the pilgrims at Medjugorje. Let's take a look at Catholic Pub Trivia. We do this every week where we ask a trivia question and give out a prize to an emailer that writes in the fastest with the correct answer. Winners will receive the Miracle Hunter image of the Faces of Mary to the person who writes in with the fastest answer. And send your answers to questions@miraclehunter.com, and answers and winners will be posted on the show page of miraclehunter.com. Now, last week we asked the question, in what century was St. Simon Stock the recipient of the brown scapular and Our Lady of Mount Carmel apparitions canonized? And unfortunately, that was something like a trick question. St. Simon Stock, although he is referred popularly as St. Simon Stock, he has never been canonized. So in no century was he ever given this recognition by Rome. So something of a trick question. So the answer is no century. Kind of a tricky one. The question for this week is, Michael McGivney's feast day is August 13th. Why is that his feast day? Most people have their feast days either lined up to their birthday or their death anniversary, or for another reason. What is the reason that Blessed Michael McGivney's feast day is August 13th? If you think you know that answer when I win the prize, send me an email to questions@miraclehunter.com, and answers and winners will be posted on the show page on miraclehunter.com. We need to take a short break, but when we come back, we're going to be talking with Melissa Villalobos, the recipient of the miracle that led to the canonization of Cardinal John Henry Newman. Stay with us for that.
Now, back to the Miracle Hunter on EWTN. Here's Michael O'Neill.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Miracle Hunter radio show on EWTN Radio. This is Michael O'Neill. I'm the Miracle Hunter. We have something in our church where we call them doctors of the church. There have been just a small number of saints throughout the years who have been recognized with this special designation. 38 doctors of the church, 28 of them are from the West and 9 from the East, and 4 are women and 34 are men. So there's a great variety in the people who are named doctors of the church, of course. But there's a brand new one that was just announced this past week, where we see that St. John Henry Newman is set to become the newest doctor of the church, and Pope Leo has paved the way for him to be formally declared a doctor. And this is he's one of the great modern thinkers of Christianity, and he's a key figure in spiritual and in the human journey, and left a profound mark on the church and 19th century ecumenism. And he's author of numerous books, and he's had such a big impact on numerous Catholics here in the United States and around the world. Well, we're so excited today because joining us is the miracle recipient herself, Melissa Villalobos, the person who received the miracle that led the way for Cardinal Newman to be declared a saint. And it's an absolutely amazing story, and we've spoken in the past, and I'm so excited to reconnect. Thank you, Melissa, for joining us on today's program.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to reconnect as well.
Let's talk a little bit about this news that just came out. I think your miracle, of course, was celebrated worldwide with that miracle that led the way to his declaration of sainthood. And now something that people have suspected for a long time is that he would be formally named a doctor of the Church, and Pope Leo has paved the way for that. Talk a little bit about your experience and what you knew of Henry Newman even before this miracle that happened. Talk about his writings and their impact on you.
Oh, sure. So in 2011, my husband brought home a couple of holy cards with Cardinal Newman's image on them. He had just been beatified the year before, and I did not know that much about him. So I put these cards in my house, and I would pray to him, and I suddenly realized one day that I didn't really know that much about him, but I just thought his face was so receptive to my prayers, and he looked so authentic and beautiful. And so I got curious, and I went online, and I found a website called newmanreader.org. And on that website, it had a lot of his writings for free that I could access. And I started reading things that he had written, and it was like discovering gold in the backyard. I mean, I could type in anything. Today I could type in the Transfiguration or the Ascension or anything about Mary, and he would educate me. And some of the writings, though, that really drew me in when I was learning about him were his letters. He wrote so many wonderful personal letters to friends and family, parishioners, and just a lot of people inquiring about their health, their families, answering their questions, and he was so tender and personal. And I thought that gave me the confidence to have this personal relationship with him, and at the same time I was reading these more deeper writings that he had written and learning more about the faith. And it was just amazing. I could hardly stop, and I had young children, and I needed to do a lot with them, of course, to take care of them, but I couldn't pull myself away. I wanted to just read a couple of paragraphs, and then the time would pass, and I still find myself doing that today.
We're talking today with Melissa Villalobos, the recipient of the miracle that led to the canonization of Cardinal Newman. This was huge news a few years ago, and exciting to talk to you again, Melissa, about this, and talk about, of course, when people pray for miracles and they center their prayers on just one potential saint, it kind of implies that they've developed a spiritual friendship where there's something in the connection there that wants you to direct your prayers just to that one singular person. What was it about Cardinal Newman that drew you in such a way that you thought to pray to him?
Well, we became very close. I started praying to him in late 2011, and he cured me in my pregnancy in May of 2013. So I had been praying to him daily for over a year, about a year and a half. And I think I was just drawn to his authenticity and his tenderness. And I loved the way he explained things that I had never fully understood before. So I felt like I could really trust him and learn from him, and that we had an actual relationship. And one of the passages that was so remarkable to me that he explained was the wedding feast at Cana. I had heard, in masses and in different places about, of course, Mary said they have no wine, and Jesus' response was, "What have I to do with thee?" And unfortunately, it was explained to me that Jesus had rebuked Mary and told her, in a sense, why are you telling me this? And that never felt comfortable to me. It never made sense to me that Jesus would rebuke Mary, who's sinless. Meanwhile, he died on the cross for us sinners. And I just always wondered what really was going on there. And I had read that Newman explained that Jesus was saying, what have I to do with thee now? In other words, that in performing that miracle, he would enter into his life as public service, and that their relationship would change. And instead of it being rebuking, it was actually a way of us to understand that Jesus and Mary both knew the sacrifices, of course, that they were making for our own sake. So it was such a loving moment, and I was so thankful to Cardinal Newman for explaining this because it made sense to me. And he did this in so many different passages, in so many different ways, inspiring me. And I felt like I was becoming so educated, which of course makes sense that he would be a doctor of the church because that's what they do. They educate us as to the truths of our faith. And that's what he was doing to me. And so, of course, I trusted him when I reached out in prayer to him for my miracle cure.
And let's talk about that fateful day, the miracle that was investigated locally and then validated by Rome and led to the canonization of Cardinal Newman. Talk about what was going on in your life medically and what caused you to desperately seek him through prayer.
Oh, sure. So I had a high-risk pregnancy with my fifth child, my daughter Gemma, and in 2013 we found out that I was hemorrhaging because the placenta had become partially detached from the uterine wall in the first trimester. Unfortunately, there was no medical cure for this situation. The only remedy for me was strict bed rest, and at the time I had 4 other young children, ages 6, 5, 3, and 1, and my husband worked outside of the home, and we had no family in the area. So strict bed rest was a really tall order, and there was certainly no guarantee that that would even help, but it was really the only thing that we had. I tried not to do too much, but it didn't take much for the bleeding to intensify. And one night on a Friday night, it was so bad I went to the ER, and we were very happy to find out, though, that my daughter Gemma was still alive. She still had a heartbeat. So after staying there for a little bit, they sent me home again and ordered me to strict bed rest. And I did that, but 5 days later, my husband had to go on a trip. We kept rescheduling this work trip because of the difficult pregnancy, but at this point, he had to go for the sake of his job. And so he went, and I said it was okay. You know, I would call 911 or we would do whatever we had to do if things got even worse. And when he was gone, he had flown to Atlanta, I was there with the children, and I got them set up for breakfast, and I had already started off the day with some really bad hemorrhaging. So I knew it was going to be a tough day. I ended up going into the bathroom and sort of collapsing on the floor, and I realized I needed to call, 911, but I did not have my phone. I don't know where I put it. It probably wasn't on me because I knew my husband was traveling, so, I wasn't going to be calling him. And as I was in there and things were very desperate for a while, I said, "Please, Cardinal Newman, make the bleeding stop." And those were the exact words I said. And just as soon as I finished, the bleeding stopped immediately, and it never returned, and I smelled the scent of roses in the air. And it was the most beautiful scent I've ever experienced on earth. Nothing could rival it. And then the scent stopped, and I said, "Cardinal Newman, did you just make those roses?" And then the scent happened for a second time in the air, which to me was an affirmation. He was saying, "Yes, I did." And it was wonderful because my injury or my medical problem was internal, so I couldn't see how I was doing, but I felt like he was giving me the additional assurance that I was healed. So I went out of the bathroom to the children, and I was so thrilled, of course, and I sat with them, and I said in my mind, "Thank you, Cardinal Newman," because my children were okay, and I hadn't been with them for all those minutes I had been in the bathroom. And when I said, "Thank you, Cardinal Newman," that's when I smelled roses for the third time in the air. That day I had an ultrasound because I was a high-risk pregnancy. I had them every week, and the doctor said everything was perfect. So I no longer had the ripped placenta, and I no longer had a high-risk pregnancy, whereas just 5 days before I was in the emergency room, and the ultrasound showed that the rip in the placenta was 2.5 times the size of my daughter. So in 5 days, praying to Cardinal Newman, I was cured instantly. It was amazing.
Absolutely amazing. We've been talking to Melissa Villalobos, the miracle recipient and the cause for canonization for Cardinal Newman. and this led to him being declared a saint. Now, Melissa, I assume you went to the canonization in Rome after this went through the whole investigation and approval and promulgation of the decree for the miracle. What was it like to be there in Rome for this event for your spiritual friend and the one who had cured you to celebrate that?
Yes, it was amazing. My family and I, we went. We actually brought up the gifts to the Holy Father in the canonization Mass, which was incredible. It was like... It is just so surreal, hard to put it to words. The funny thing is that when I was there, so many people came up to me and said, I'm so glad you prayed to him because I want him to be a doctor of the church. And he can't be a doctor of the church if he isn't canonized as a saint. So so I'm imagining all of those people are really happy today, which is great, and I'm happy too. But no, it was wonderful. So many people were happy, and Catholics and Anglicans alike were there and celebrating the good news. And then Prince Charles, now King Charles, was there, and so many others. So it was just a real moment of great joy for Catholics and non-Catholics alike. Just really exciting.
All right, we're still basking in the glow of that canonization. I think so many people around the world were excited for this news, and so many people I know when I heard the news about him being declared a doctor, I was texting that around to various friends, and everybody was so excited. What was it like for you when you heard this recent news that Pope Leo has now authorized this, and it will happen, that he will be, in fact, a doctor of the Church?
Well, I didn't know it was coming. I went downstairs early in the morning to get a cup of coffee with my 6-year-old, who's my youngest, and we went down there, and we usually are the earliest to wake up, and we went down there, and we're sitting on the sofa together, and I decided to start reading some headlines, some Catholic news headlines, and I saw the news, and I said, oh my goodness, Cardinal Newman's going to be a doctor of the Church. And so my 6-year-old then woke everyone up and went through the house and told everyone, Cardinal Newman's going to be a doctor of the Church. So that's what it was like for us, and it's something we've actually been praying for since the day of the canonization as a family. When we come together to pray at night, we have our prayers, and then at the end we ask if Cardinal Newman could be named a doctor of the Church. So for my 6-year-old, he only knows praying this for his whole life, pretty much. And we haven't changed yet because, as I understand it, it will be declared, but it hasn't been done yet. So we're going to just keep it up to help, it be a smooth, easy process. But we'll have to make some modifications. We used to pray for him to become a saint. Then we changed that to doctor of the Church. So now I don't know what's coming next, but we'll still be praying to Cardinal Newman every night, no matter what.
That's beautiful. We've been talking today with Melissa Villalobos, the recipient of the miracle that led to the canonization of Cardinal Newman. And as she was mentioning, so many people at that canonization itself were saying, okay, he's a saint now. Let's see him as a doctor of the Church. And that's what we're getting right now from Pope Leo. So we're very excited about this news. And for those people who, obviously Cardinal Newman is a big name, and people know him for his scholarship and his conversion and his influence. From you, who have had a spiritual friendship with him, and you've been praying for his canonization and for his being named a doctor and for a miracle, and you've certainly built a connection. What can you share with the audience for people to reflect on as we move forward with this being named a doctor of the Church?
Well, he is absolutely brilliant. He's already in the catechism, which is interesting, for his work on conscience. But I would also want people to know that he's very approachable for needs, for medical needs or spiritual needs or whatever you need for your family. The most amazing thing to me about Cardinal Newman is he is probably the most humble and accessible genius that I could ever imagine. Don't let his brilliance make you feel like there's a wall between you. He will lead you by the hand to understand Christ more fully in our church, but he's also a very loving, just extraordinary person. He really cares for the faithful. And, these letters that he wrote that I was mentioning earlier, he's written thousands of them. And I don't know how he had the time to do it. And I know he didn't do it thinking we would all be admiring him by reading these on the internet one day. So he clearly did this out of love, and I would encourage anyone who has any kind of need to pray to him and to reach out to him. He is so generous and amazing.
Wonderful. Well, we're so grateful to you. Always so wonderful to talk to you, Melissa, and can never hear about that miracle story enough, and we're so excited about the big news about him being soon to be declared a doctor of the church. So we celebrate with you on that, because I know that you and your family are celebrating in a big way as well. So thank you so much, Melissa Villalobos, for joining us on today's program.
Thank you.
God bless. That was Melissa Villalobos talking to us about her miracle and about Cardinal Newman being named a doctor of the church. We need to take a short break, but when we come back, we're going to look at the question of the week. Stay with us for that.
Now, back to the Miracle Hunter on EWTN. Here's Michael O'Neill.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Miracle Hunter radio show on EWTN Radio. This is Michael O'Neill. I'm the Miracle Hunter. Hey, I love getting your questions. People write in from around the world with questions about miracles happening in today's world and those that have happened centuries ago. And I love getting your questions. I love hearing what people are thinking about. And, I love getting the questions through email, but I also really like answering the questions in person. I give talks around the country, maybe 20 per year, where talk about Marian apparitions or Eucharistic miracles, or how the Church investigates the supernatural, or how the sainthood process works, or any of these topics. But I always love opening it up for questions afterwards. So about 15, 20 minutes or longer, people pepper me with questions, and so I love to hear what people are thinking about. And if you want to have me come to your parish or event or conference or shrine, you can send me an email. You can go to the contact tab of miraclehunter.com and send me a message that way. And who knows, maybe I'll be speaking at a parish near you sometime soon. So a question coming in from Cindy S. from Lincoln, Nebraska. She asks, hello, Mr. O'Neill. I wonder if you have heard about baby Brian Gallagher. Brian was born in 1982 and passed away about 45 minutes later. In 2019, he was to be reinterred where his parents planned to have him buried. And at that time, it was found that his body was incorrupt, looking the same as he died 37 years earlier. I would encourage you to visit the website, babybrian.org, to learn the full story. Thank you for your time and for the Miracle Hunter. Thank you, Cindy. Well, thanks, Cindy, for your question, and it's a good one. I think that this was some interesting news that came up not too long ago, and it was very interesting, because I think that when we talk about incorruptibles, of course, that's where a saint's body has been preserved in a remarkable way that's kind of unnatural, and we have no explanation for it, at least at the opening of the coffin, and perhaps other things happen after the coffin is opened, but this is the only case that I'm aware of where somebody who's, before reaching the age of reason, and therefore having the ability to even be a saint, somebody whose body is incorrupt. So this one is a mystery to me. I don't really know the answer to this, of what it all means. Of course, there are numerous cases, for better or worse, of perfectly sealed coffins and perfect temperatures and perfect atmospheric conditions that would allow for a corpse to be best preserved. But this is remarkable that 37 years later, the child looked exactly how he did when he was buried. So this is kind of a mystery. What does it all mean? I don't know. It's a question for when we get to heaven. We can ask God this one. This is a true mystery. And what do we consider it even a miracle? Is it truly in case of incorruption? I'm not sure what to make of it, but thank you so much, Cindy, for sending in that one. And again, we spoke about it weeks ago, but it's definitely a mystery, and I don't have a good answer for this one. But I look forward to your questions. You can send me a message to questions@miraclehunter.com. Maybe next week I'll do a better job of answering your question of the week. Let's take a look at the 365 Days with Mary. We do this every week where we talk about the Marian devotion of the day from somewhere around the world. We all know Fatima, May 13th, or Lourdes, February 11th, or Guadalupe, December 12th. But, believe it or not, there's a different Marian devotion from somewhere in the world that lines up exactly to each date of the calendar year. And for today's date, we've got the White Lady of Messina in Italy in the year 1282. And the story goes that fighting against starvation and famine, Messina, with the attack of the French against the Sicilian Vespers, the people of the town knew that they were outmatched by their enemy and knew their weapons would not be enough, so they sought the help of the Blessed Virgin Mary in prayer. On August 6th in 1282, heavy casualties amongst the French soldiers occurred when they struggled and failed to overtake the walls of the fortress of Saint-Sauveur. And the prayers of the people of Messina were answered as they were given the aid of a white lady who appeared twice in splendor, using her veil to repel the arrows. And startled by the sight, the French soldiers could not look anymore and began to run away in retreat. And that is today's devotion of the day, the White Lady from Messina in Italy in the year 1282. And that's an interesting one. Let's take a look at the miracle of the day. We do this every week where we talk about a miracle that's happened on today's date, or the day's date, at some point in Christian history. And so today's miracle comes from August 9th in 1848, and it occurred in Ars in France, where a 7-year-old boy named Anthony Caulfield was reportedly cured of paralysis, regaining the use of his legs through the intercession of Saint Philomena. So that is today's miracle of the day. Let's take a look at the sainthood news. We do this every week where we talk about those people coming down the pipeline. And for today's date, we have for the news from this week that the Holy Father, Pope Leo, received an audience His Eminence Cardinal Marcello Semeraro, the prefect for the dicastery for the causes of saints. And during this audience, the Supreme Pontiff authorized the same dicastery to promulgate the decree regarding the heroic virtues of the servant of God, Raffaele Manella. He was a professed cleric of the Congregation of the Missionaries of the Sacred Hearts, born June 22nd, 1877, in Torre del Greco in Italy, and he died there on September 15th in 1898. And according to the Dicastery for the Cause of Saints website, he was a professed cleric of the Congregation of the Missionaries of the Sacred Hearts. He had great faith in God, which was the cornerstone of his life, and from a young age he went to the parish every day for Mass, and in the evening to receive the Eucharistic benediction, so much that his assiduous religious practice fostered in him the desire to eventually become a priest. And so that is the sainthood news. So he is being declared a venerable. With one miracle, he'll be declared blessed. With a second miracle, he will be Saint Raffaele Manella. And that is the sainthood news for today. Let's take a look at the might-be saint of the day. Every week we talk about someone on the path to sainthood that's a servant of God, a venerable, a blessed, before they have all their miracles and are declared a saint by Rome. And so today's day we have Blessed Richard Beret, and he is also known as John Beret. And he was born in Glastonbury in England, and he is the nephew of Richard Beret, the abbot of Glastonbury. He's educated at the Glastonbury Abbey School and then Oxford, and he refused an arranged marriage, and he studied law at the Chancery in London. And then he abandoned the law, and in 1523 became a Carthusian choir monk at the London Charterhouse. He was imprisoned and martyred with several of his brothers for refusing to take the oath of supremacy, acknowledging King Henry VIII as the head of the church. And he was starved to death on August 9th, 1537, in Newgate Prison in London. He was beatified on December 20th, 1886, by Pope Leo XIII. And with one miracle, he will go to Saint Richard Beret. And that is today's Might Be Saint of the Day. And for people who want to check out They Might Be Saints, as I bring it to you, you can pick up the book, They Might Be Saints, which is available at EWTNRC.com, where I feature the lives of 24 venerables and blesseds, people who are on the path to sainthood. And you can get that one at the EWTN Religious Catalog, as I mentioned. I think it's my best book. And then my television series, They Might Be Saints, which corresponds to the book, and we've done something like 25 episodes. I examined the saintly life of Montse Grasses in this episode on August 12th, the cheerful 17-year-old who faced cancer with extraordinary faith and joy. She could be the first woman of Opus Dei to be declared a saint. We need to take a short break, but when we come back, we're going to be talking with the vice postulator of the cause for Blessed Michael McGivney, the founder of Knights of Columbus. We'll be speaking with Brian V. Caulfield about a brand new miracle that could lead to the canonization of this great future saint. Stay with us for that.
Now, back to the Miracle Hunter on EWTN. Here's Michael O'Neill.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Miracle Hunter radio show on EWTN Radio. This is Michael O'Neill. I'm the Miracle Hunter. Well, I remember this a couple of years ago. It was 2020, right in the middle of the COVID pandemic, and it was Halloween, October 31st, so it was an easy date to remember, but I was there for the beatification of Michael McGivney. I'm a member of the Knights of Columbus myself, and it was a big deal to be there. We were there celebrating and being a part of the beatification of the founder of the Knights of Columbus. And we were also filming there an episode of They Might Be Saints, which people can go on EWTN.com and go on there on demand and watch that episode. And one of the people that I met along the way and I've gotten to know over the years is Brian V. Caulfield, the vice postulator for Blessed Michael McGivney, and we're so excited to have him join us on today's program, in lieu of the feast day coming up on August 12th. Thank you so much, Brian, for joining us on today's program.
Oh, thank you, Michael. Always happy to talk about, Blessed Michael McGivney.
Yeah, this is it's an exciting time, of course, to have him be named a blessed not too long ago, and now we're looking forward to the next step, of course, to see if he will a new miracle will surface, and then he will be named a saint. And I think that over the years, of course, there's been a great devotion to Michael McGivney amongst those members of the Knights of Columbus. Talk a little bit about, of course, we know the big accomplishment, the founding of the Knights that everybody points to, and it's such a big deal because it's the largest fraternal Catholic organization in the world. So many members have such a great interest and devotion in their founder. But beyond that, talk about the virtues of the man, these things that were put together in the Positio, the position paper that was sent to Rome that was validated, turned him into a venerable, recognizing his heroic virtue. Talk about the virtues of Michael McGivney that Rome has recognized.
Yes, well, as you mentioned, he was recognized for his heroic virtue and gained the title of venerable in 2008. And basically that was, as you mentioned, the Positio or position paper, really promoting and explaining his life and why, he would be judged to have exercised heroic virtue throughout his life, especially in his priesthood. I think one of his chief virtues was humility. And we see that in a couple of instances regarding, even in his early life. He knew he had a vocation to priesthood, and he wanted to kind of join the equivalent of a high school seminary when he was 13 years old. But Michael was the oldest of 13 children of the McGivney family. His parents had come from Ireland during the Great Famine, in the 1840s, 1850s in Ireland. And he was their firstborn. And of course, among immigrant families in those days, the oldest son was expected to take up the labor to help support the family. So, of course, if Michael went into seminary, obviously he would be removed from that job of. So his father, said, "Well, Michael, you really have to help me support the family." And so, in his humility, Michael, in obedience, followed his father's. And for 3 years, from the age 13 to age 16, he worked in a spoon factory in Waterbury, Connecticut, where his family, had settled at that time. Finally, at age 16, his father, Patrick, agreed, that his son did have this vocation and he wasn't going to fight, against the call of God. So then, young Michael was entered into the seminary and went on, to ordination in 1877. Other evidence of humility would be, when he founded the Knights of Columbus, he saw that there was a need for this Catholic fraternal organization to keep men close to their faith and also to provide a death benefit. Some Catholic men at the time were being drawn away by the secret societies, the anti-Catholic secret societies, mainly, because of their death benefit and also because of the social and professional, job connections that they could get, with the brotherhood of things like the Masons. So Father McGivney said we have to, found a Catholic organization that will offer equal or better benefits to Catholic men and their families. And so at one of their meetings, when they, took on the name of Knights of Columbus, these men who helped him found the order, they wanted him to be like the chief, the supreme knight, as we would call it today. And he said, no, this is a lay organization for laymen. Will be obedient to the teachings and the authority of the church, but this will be a lay-run organization. And so he declined that. And, some of these men were kind of getting ahead in New Haven, Connecticut society, despite the anti-Catholic. So I always find it interesting that, here it is, a 29-year-old, not even pastor. He was a junior pastor at his parish. And yet these men, some of whom were lawyers, some of whom were businessmen, the sheriff or the police chief, they asked him, you lead us. And not only was that kind of phenomenal in a way, but the fact that he turned that down. And that's why I think, the Knights have gone on over 140 years, because it has been consistently, we respect our priests and chaplains, but it is a lay-run organization. And if I could add just one more instance, when Father McGivney was, he was assistant priest at St. Mary's in New Haven, where he founded the Knights. But 2 years after he founded the Knights, his bishop said, okay, it's time for you to be a pastor, and sends him to a parish about 25 miles away, which, in those days, horse and buggy was, kind of a long distance. And so Father McGivney, the founder of the Knights, did not take the order with him to Thomaston. He kept, all the books and everything in New Haven with the laymen, and he would travel to the monthly meetings or even more than monthly meetings and, make that sacrifice. So again, we kind of see these very interesting instances where Father McGivney was able to put others first and still do the hard work of the planning and the founding, but letting others kind of take the reins and go forward.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. We're talking today with Brian V. Caulfield, the vice postulator for the Blessed Michael McGivney cause. And one of the things with Michael McGivney, of course, and we're so grateful for those stories related to his humility and other virtues that are evidenced in various ways in the founding of the Knights and his work with these men over the years. Talk about a little bit in modern times. Of course, we see the Knights of Columbus being the largest fraternal Catholic organization in the world, and they all turn to Michael McGivney for inspiration as a great model and also for prayer. Talk a little bit about the influence on the charism of the modern Knights of Columbus, you might say.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Michael, as you know, we're talking during the very days of the Supreme Council Convention, as we call it. This year it's in Washington, D.C., and tomorrow is the last day. But yesterday, the Supreme Knight, Patrick Kelly, gave his annual report, which is, kind of a State of the Union of the Knights of Columbus, and, the amazing charitable works we do, and, the amazing faith works that, we sponsor. And, this is, Knights are present, 2.1 million Knights throughout the world. Wow. All 50 states, Canada, Philippines, and, we've been present in Ukraine for a number of years, helping out, during the hardship of the war years there in Ukraine. So, we've really seen, the growth of the order. And, we always invoke, Father McGivney for so many of our works. And, he's an example to us. He's more than a founder, I think. He's kind of a father figure, someone we can trust. And, as vice postulator, especially since his beatification 5 years ago, we've really seen a number of extraordinary healings and favors attributed to, his intercession, that the people, prayed to him and would attribute their favor to him because of that prayer. So if I could kind of mention, I mean, this is the miracle hunter I'm speaking to.
Yes, let's hear the latest and greatest. I know you were saying that there was one reported recently that you might be looking into.
Yes. In fact, Supreme Knight mentioned this in his annual report. And, the theme of this year's convention is Heralds of Hope, kind of tying in with the Jubilee Year of Hope. And kind of the final story of hope, to give so many people hope, and also in the hope of intercession of Blessed Michael. There was a toddler, this happened in Arizona, a young boy named Vincent, who unfortunately, fell into a pool, and his family didn't find him until, he had kind of gone unconscious, and of course, rushed him to the emergency room. And evidently, he had a period of time where he was not breathing, and, the doctors were not giving too much hope, of recovery, thinking that maybe his lungs had been filled and, his heart had given out, or, his brain, the lack of oxygen and things of that sort, whatever, medical instances he would have gone through. So through our Knights Network, we got a message in our headquarters in New Haven that this family would like a relic, a first-class relic of Father McGivney, and wanted to pray a novena to him. So that relic was sent, and, a priest, a friend of the family, brought the relic to the child's bedside, and they started, the 9 days of prayer. We have a booklet ever since his beatification, 9 days or novena of prayer through the intercession of Blessed Michael McGivney. So each day, his parents, laid the relic, first-class bone relic, on him as they prayed that day's novena prayer. And amazingly, on the 9th day of the novena, the last day, young Vincent was able to walk out of the hospital on his own.
Amazing.
And since then, his parents report, that there's been no indication of any lingering, illness or any damage, brain damage or heart damage or anything like that. So, this is something, of course, we know the Vatican standards are very high. We'll have to look into, exactly the medical history and the opinion of the doctors and things of that sort. But in the meantime, it's a story and an event that so many people are taking hope and solace from.
Wonderful. Well, that is exciting news, a potential miracle. And of course, that we all know the story of Mikey Shackle, the first miracle, being cured of fetal hydrops, an incurable condition, and that led to the beatification of Michael McGivney in 2020. So we'll see this new miracle or another one that surfaces. I know there are so many people worldwide praying for miracles through Michael McGivney, so it's just a matter of time where we see him being elevated to a saint. Well, we're so grateful to you, Brian V. Caulfield, for joining us on today's program and for your background and history that you gave on the founder of the Knights. Where can people go to find out more, to either join the Knights or to find out more about the life of your great founder?
Yeah, well, we have what we call the Father McGivney Guild, which promotes the cause, and that's fathermcgivney.org. That's spelled out Father, McGivney.org. And you can join the Guild, and all Guild members are remembered in a weekly Mass offered by our chaplain. And you can join. We ask you to pray and submit prayer petitions. And if you get any kind of favor, I also hold closely to my heart the what I call the everyday favors with jobs or finances or family reconciliation, things of that sort that people do report. And of course, the Knights of Columbus is open to Catholic men over 18 or older. You can go to kofc.org, to get more information on that.
Wonderful. Well, we're so grateful to you, Brian V. Caulfield, Vice Postulator for Blessed Michael McGivney, for joining us on today's program.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Michael.
God bless. That was Brian V. Caulfield. Great background on Father McGivney. And we'll have to pray that miracle passes muster of the investigation locally and then by Rome. So we could be seeing Saint Michael McGivney sometime in the very near future. And that's all the time we have for today's show. If you missed any of this episode or want to catch up on past episodes, you can go to EWTN.com/radio. Check out the audio archives or download the free EWTN app. I'd like to thank our guest today, Melissa Villalobos, the recipient of the Cardinal John Henry Newman Miracle, and also Brian V. Caulfield, the Vice Postulator for Michael McGivney. Check out my series, Explore with the Miracle Hunter, this week on August 9th at 5 p.m. Central Time. The Italian city of Assisi gave rise to two of history's most celebrated saints. I check out the Trail of St. Francis, and he's the first to bear the stigmata, and St. Clare, his wonder-working follower. And I'd like to thank you for joining me today on Miracle Hunter, where from claims of healings and visions to the world's most inexplicable events, whether you're a believer or a skeptic, the truth is always worth the hunt. Talk to you next week.